Welcome to the Can Innovate podcast. We focus on providing you with timeless professional development secrets and essential business life skills in a mini bite-sized format. I'm unlocking the vault and sharing best practices that management consultants have been using for decades. We're unapologetically curious. Enjoy. Hey, innovators. This episode is about overwhelm. I mean, don't we all get into the cycle of massive overwhelm and it's like everything is coming down on us? Oh, I totally get it. Life is always a roller coaster. And lately, I've been overwhelmed with all the key activities that are going on in my life. It doesn't help that I also have a heightened sense of urgency. I just like to get stuff done. It's kind of my favorite mode. Come up with a strategy, plan, execute, and just go. Let's go. And I can't help it. I just like to get stuff off the plate and drive results and just see progress. I think might have something to do with maybe my type A personality. But we do get into the cycle of overwhelm, and it's a true thing, and it's a big deal. And so I thought we'll take a time to kind of talk about how do we deal with this overwhelm. First, let's take a second to kind of pause and define what exactly overwhelm is. I like to define it as treading water. You're just doing everything just to keep afloat. Now, we've all experienced this feeling. It's just sometimes really hard to see the forest in the trees, right? It's just hard to see the plan and where you're going and the ultimate goal. And you just feel a little bit lost. And it's just so kind of chaotic. And the truth is that chaos you're feeling is coming from inside. Yes, we have a lot of things going on in our head, but we need to find some time and some way to take a breath and to get a plan together and to really break things into smaller chunks of activities. I know, I make it sound super easy and it's so not. I totally get it, but I'm here to take the complexity out of it. So I kind of came up with about 7 different strategies that you can do. And you don't have to do all of them, but you can do some of them. And first of all, the first thing we have to do is kind of do and acknowledge the elephant in the room. Acknowledge that you actually are overwhelmed. And that is always the first step. And in fact, that just happened to me not too long ago that, one of my clients I was working with, and he was just like, hey, why don't I get someone else to do this? And I was like, no, I want to do it. But as soon as I took it off my plate, because he recognized I have so many things going on, I felt so great because I was able to focus again because it was causing a lot of overwhelm because there was just so many things to do. And in terms of priorities, it really wasn't one of my top priorities of things we need to execute on. So acknowledging that you're overwhelmed is always the first step. Part 2, understand. Why do you feel overwhelmed? For me, it was a new client and I was trying to prove everything I can do to them, all the different activities, and I got it under control. So that was where my mistake was to begin with, but that's what it was that I had too much to do and too much to focus on immediately. So trying to understand where it is that you're feeling overwhelmed. Maybe it's actually that you've got too many back-to-back appointments or meetings and you're not being able to, kind of get stuff done in between. Or maybe it's, that you're not being able to say no. Try to understand where the source of overwhelm is, kind of thing. And you'll start to understand that, okay, wait a minute. It could be that you're trying to do multiple things because you're trying to figure out where to go. Well, what you should be kind of doing is maybe taking a step back and trying to define where you're trying to go first and then put everything together. So sometimes we need to just take that moment to kind of, okay, that's what's kind of going on. The third thing is we got to breathe. Breathe and recognize that everything is fixable and solvable. Except health. I have no idea how to solve health because if I did, I'd be a magician. But everything else at work and everything else is fixable and solvable. We just need to figure out what our options are and what are the options to the things that we need to do. So this is often where we get into trouble is because we haven't taken the time to actually write down everything and we're keeping it in our brain and our first overwhelmed piece is that we're trying to remember what everything is that we said we were going to do or need to do. So tip number 4 is do a brain dump. Write everything down on a list. Like literally just dump everything, whatever's on your mind, just get it onto a piece of paper. One centralized list. That's all it is. That's one less thing for you to think about is that all the things that I need to remember. Now you've got a one list. Now you're going okay, these are all the things I need to action now. Tip number 5 is you got to think about the now. What are the really, out of all that list, what is the biggest priorities? Like what is the immediate needs that you really need to do right now? And not just now, but now. Anyways, the reason why I say about the now, it made me laugh because when I was working in South Africa, I had learned they had three different definitions for now. There was just now, which meant within the immediate future. Then there was now, which meant within the hour or so. And then there was now, which meant drop everything and focus on it. So when you're trying to figure out what your priorities are, figure out what you need to do now, and make that the kind of the top big rocks that you need to focus on. Number 6, action. Look at the rest of your list. Look at all your list. Are there items that you can actually outsource, automate, not do, eliminate, delegate? I'm a pretty big fan of the not to do list, which is basically me scratching out things on my list going, I've decided not to do it, or I'm going to group it with something else. My sister is super great at this. I swear, she looks at her calendar for the week and the month and highlights it with the areas and days that she needs help with all the kids. She gets proactive so then she can plan and then gets help from other things. So she delegates it to all of us, and we love it because we all have a purpose and we can all chip in. And then the other day, we all have the same things, right? Like simple things of like struggling to find time to do grocery shopping. And then you've got people coming for the weekend. And then you've got deadlines that are happening at work. And then you got to do pickups. And it just doesn't ever stop, right? So one night decided to get food delivered and decided to do grocery shopping online and pay for the delivery. And boom, nailed it. Next. Because that's what we could do. We could automate things. We could outsource it, eliminate it, delegate it, or just choose not to do it at all. And that's okay. And that is one thing we need to be able to be more comfortable with, which leads me to number 7, the power of no. Look, there's no easy way to say no, but it really is something we all need to really kind of master. That we could say no and take a bit more control about what you need to focus on right now. And we often feel guilty for saying no, but we shouldn't. What we're saying is no does not mean forever. We're saying no for the immediate future. And this is really important because people will often thank you for your honesty and managing expectations by saying, honestly, I don't have the bandwidth to do it. And be able to say it. And you're not saying no forever. And maybe you have a better options that you can give them. So-and-so can help you. They've done this type of thing. Here's some things you can leverage. There's a lot of different ways. I actually wrote a nice big blog out about how to say no elegantly because I know it's a really uncomfortable, sticky situation to be able to say those things. So I've given you tons of tactics and tips of how to do it because it's something we all need to recognize. And the other thing we need to recognize is that being Superman or Superwoman is not about taking on everything. Now, if you remember Superman and Superwoman, they didn't save the world by themselves. They saved it with a lot of people and resources, and that's what it's all about. It's a leveraging all the people and resources around you to drive towards that goal or vision that you're trying to do. So anyways, I put together a little notes in the actual speaker list that you can actually take a look at the podcast, actual show notes, and it actually has the blog, the episode, the freebies, articles. Take a look. But anyways, I really hope I've given you some simple tips to kind of start to kind of deal with the overwhelm. Again, thank you so much for your time, and I really hope these tips really help you. It's definitely helped me more times than I can count. And feel free to share with your friends and others that are struggling. We all need help and friendly reminders that we're not alone in feeling this way. We'll talk soon. Cheers. Thank you so much for joining and listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed this episode or any other episode, please share with your friends and colleagues. You can share on social media, the email link, the newsletter, and so on. Let's continue to support these Canadian innovators and help them really grow into bigger brands. Awareness and knowledge is totally key. Anyways, I can't wait to talk to you next week. Cheers.